Welcome, my political friends of the interwebs. Today I'm going to talk about something a little out of character for me. So I'm not going to be in my comfort zone, but I got a whole lot to say. First, I want to give a big shout out, big props, a big thank you for Superfly Fat Guy for turning me on to this story. And as an Ohioan, I should be ashamed of not knowing what the hell's going on in my state. Anyway, I'm going to talk about a guy named Tony Farmer. He's a high school kid. Young adult, whatever you want to call him. I don't really know his age. All I know is that they must have charged him as an adult, I'm assuming. He just got sentenced, I think, yesterday. They gave him 3 years. 3 years in prison. Now, this is what this guy did to get the 3 years of prison. He kidnapped his ex-girlfriend. He severely beat her. And he robbed her. Okay. Most of which was caught on surveillance videotape. In the surveillance videotape, you'll actually see where he grabs her by the hair and drags her and kicks her in the head several times. Now, we're talking about a guy who is 6'7", 210 pounds. Okay, so we're talking about a very substantial human being. All right, capable of doing quite a bit of damage. Now, I don't know what the extent of this young lady's injuries were, but I do know that part of his sentence, he was ordered to reimburse her for quite a bit of money in medication. So apparently she had some kind of medication that she had to take, although he's very blessed that he did not kill her. In fact, I went to high school with a guy that shortly after high school, he got in a fight with somebody, punched him across the head, and they fell and hit their head on the concrete and died. And he went to prison for manslaughter. So, you know, this Tony Farmer guy is about as lucky gets. However, and I will leave a link to the video below. When he was being sentenced and the judge was reading his sentence to him, he fell out. He literally like a sack of potatoes. He just fell. He couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that he actually got sentenced to do, anything. Now, why was it such a shock to Tony Farmer that he was sentenced to 3 years in prison? Well, and by the way, 3 years, he had one, I want to say, one first-degree felony, 2 second-degree felonies, and then when he was out on bond, he had called the ex-girlfriend and threatened her life if she didn't cooperate with with his defense. Yeah, and 3 years is all he got, and which, by the way, was the minimum you could get for the first degree, for the one charge of first degree felony. Every other charge had a time frame put to it, but the judge, in her infinite wisdom, decided to allow those all to be served concurrently, which means they all are timed out at the same time, or they're all ticking away at the same time. So, which, by the way, I hate. I hate when that happens. You know. Here's the thing. Why? You know, that's the question. Why was he surprised? Why was he upset? Why did he fall down? I'll tell you why. His entire life, he's been treated special because he could play basketball. He could play basketball. Of course, being as tall as he is, not surprised. You know, and that comes from a guy that's 5'6". I never could play basketball, but I was a hell of a wrestler. Anyway, this kid had been able to play basketball his entire life, and undoubtedly had gotten pass after pass after pass on everything, to the point where I don't really think that he really understood that there was a consequence to any of his actions. In fact, I don't even know that he was capable of even conceptualizing such a thing. Because I guarantee you, in throughout his life, he'd gotten in fights, and he'd gotten in this, and he'd gotten in that, and they all just kind of, well, it's okay. You know, hey, how you going to do in the game this weekend? You know, hey, good luck in the game coming up against, whoever. You know, his entire life he's been treated like that. And it all came to a head when apparently his ex-girlfriend would not loan him some money or something. I'm not exactly sure what caused it, but then he just went off. And they took the money. After beating her half to death, he took the money. So, some disturbing facts about this, if you guys are ready for it. Because he is a superstar, an awesome basketball player extraordinaire, there were several large colleges waiting to see how this whole criminal thing was going to shake out. You know, now, I'm talking like Michigan State. I'm talking Penn State. I'm talking big colleges. We're literally still looking at this guy as a prospect and keeping their fingers crossed that the judge wasn't going to give him what he undoubtedly deserved. Now, let me tell you something. The judge, at her discretion, okay, you can do the math on this if you want. The judge, in her discretion, can release him after he serves 180 days. 180 days. And it's funny because when in court, and you'll have to watch this video, when he falls down onto the floor of the courtroom, his lawyer said to him, "Get up, it's not as bad as you think it is." Are you freaking kidding me? He almost killed a woman. Get up, it's not as bad as you think it is. You can play basketball. Fucking ridiculous. So, keep an eye on this, people. I predict in 180 days he gets probation. And I predict one of these douchebag universities will take and scoop him up. Hey, why not go to Penn State? What the hell? They're reps in the toilet anyway. You know. From child molesters to woman beaters. And you know what really makes me sick about this whole thing? Reading comments on boards about this. I did, you know, when Superfly Fat Guy turned me onto this. I seen the video and I was intrigued by that. And then I actually went to a couple of boards and I read what people were saying. And what was so disturbing is how many people were saying, he's a young black man with skill. You're destroying his life. Nobody's destroying his life but himself. What are we supposed to do? Continue the nonsense of letting this guy pass? To turning the other way? We didn't see nothing. You know? Pissing on the victims of this guy? Is that what we're supposed to do? Because he's a talented young black guy that can play basketball? Seriously? Now, would you have heard that had he been white? Well, he's a talented white kid that can play basketball. Let's not ruin the rest of his life over this. Seriously? You think that's what would have been said? You know? If that's what you think would have been said, you need to put down the crack pipe. First of all, if he had been white, he'd have got 10 years. Which is, by the way, what Tony Farmer should have got. Without parole. You drag a young woman through a parking lot by her hair and you kick her repeatedly in the head, and you're 6'7", and I don't even care how big you are. And it's just beyond words. It's hard for me to even say anything about this. So ridiculous. And the fact that these large, seriously big universities are even still remotely interested in this woman-beaten criminal makes me sick. And you know what? I know I've said more than once, oh, woman beater. You know what? And it doesn't even matter what the gender is. The fact of the matter is this kid is sick. He's a punk. He's a piece of shit. And I pray to God when he gets to prison, he at least gets that ass tapped once. Oh, how could you say that? That's a horrible thing to say. Really? Well, that's probably the only punishment he's going to get in his entire life. Because 180 days from now, that judge is going to open those doors, open those bars up and say, go have a good game tonight, boy. I hope you do well. And, you know, and here's the other thing, too. This is the thing that makes me sick about college sports. seriously sick. It's all about the freaking money. They don't give a rat's ass about anything other than money. It makes me sick. College sports should be banned in this country. It's disgusting. And any one of those coaches that were sitting and waiting to see how this was all going to shake out, you should all lose your jobs. Every one of you. You set a piss poor example. Freaking ridiculous. Every bit of it is just freaking ridiculous. This guy is a disgusting human being and should be spending the next decade of his life trying to figure it out. Now, there will be some people, and I almost have a hard time arguing against this, but there will be some people who say, hey, wait a minute. Is it really his fault if his entire life, the adults that were in charge of raising him and in charge of educating him gave him a pass? Is it really his fault that he turned out this way? Aren't they at least somewhat culpable? Yes, they are. Every one of them, including his mother. And father, I suppose. We'll see I don't know enough. Yes, they are culpable. And they should all be serving prison sentences themselves. Pathetic. What kind of society are we... Seriously, what kind of society do we have? You know what's really crazy? The Department of Education has completely screwed the pooch. People have allowed it to happen, mostly Democrats. And our minorities, we have a whole group of minorities in this country that we say, hey, sports is your only way out. Don't worry about getting in any trouble, because we'll make sure that we brush that under the carpet. And, as long as you're good at ball of some sort, doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, baseball, doesn't really matter. That's your answer. That's your only answer. And that's the saddest thing about it, because, what really should be being talked about is the fact that education is their answer. But they're being used by the education system that we have in place. And nobody is saying anything about it. As long as we can have our football parties and our basketball parties and, hey, Sweet 16, Final Four, let's have some beers. As a society, we need a serious reality check. We really do. We need to reprioritize, because the priorities that we have right now are they're disgusting. They're sick. They're a cancer. They're a cancer on our society. And in the end, it will eat us. I don't know other way to look at it, people. I really don't. I don't know any other way to look at it. And this Tony Farmer guy's not the first one. He's not. He's not the first skilled, athletically skilled, young athlete, black athlete, that got a pass on every criminal act they've ever committed. One of the easiest things to do in this world is buy a Super Bowl ring. You know why that is? Seriously, do you know why that? You know why it's so easy to buy a Super Bowl ring? All it takes is a little money. Because most of these so-called student athletes, when their playing career is over, they're too freaking stupid to be employed. Not every one of them becomes a superstar that gets to do TV commercials for the next 30 years. Michael Jordan. For every Michael Jordan, there's 50,000 or 3, 4, 500,000, maybe 1 million that aren't going to have those opportunities. But maybe they went to a Super Bowl, then got traded to a team that didn't go anywhere, and then they got cut. And they're sitting there, they've blown most of their money on, Ferraris and hookers, and blow, and steroids. And now they need a job, but it's hard to fill out a job application when you can't even freaking read and write. You got a diploma, you got a degree from some prestigious university like, I don't know, Ohio freaking State. Not to pick on Ohio State, but you understand my point. Any one of them. Anyway, that's all I got. Let me know in the comments section what you think. See ya!